Time for another coronavirus vlog update, number 4. Hey everyone, welcome back to Clueless Dad. Yes, I am in fact biking and vlogging at the same time. I think this is pretty dangerous. No hands. Look, Ma. So as you can guess, I'm not in Hong Kong right now. I'm actually in Japan, one of my favorite spots to bike, next to the river. I don't know if you can see the river. Still only March. Still March for another day. Spring hasn't quite sprung yet. Sakura haven't bloomed. But as you can see, it's getting warmer. Not as cold as it was 2 weeks ago. So anyway. Between the last time I did a coronavirus vlog and now, we've actually had a lot of things happen. Vaccines, outbreaks, etc. So I'm actually going to play some videos I took over the last basically year and a half since my last one, since August 2020. It's now March 2022. And I'll wrap it up at the end, and then I'll come back for part 5, probably explaining why exactly I'm here in Japan, but I think you can probably guess. And I'm trying not to crash. I'm at the end of the road. Anyway, let's get to it, and I'll come back at the end. Before I get started, let me give a little recap. If you haven't seen parts 1 through 3, I'm an American who's lived in Hong Kong for like 15 years. My wife is Japanese. We have 2 kids. I do a YouTube channel. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Coolest Dad. Today my son and I are going to put together a Milberget chair from IKEA. When COVID first hit in China in the end of 2019, it actually spread to Hong Kong in January 2020, before it got everywhere else in the world. So as soon as it hit Hong Kong, I actually evacuated my wife and kids back to Japan, and they stayed there for 6 months. I couldn't get back into Japan after I dropped them off. So I was stuck in Hong Kong. They were in Japan. Eventually they came back. And I wanted to update everyone on what happened between basically August 2020 and now. And I'm filming this in March 2022 already. Wow. Everyone, welcome back to the Clueless Dad. Time for another coronavirus vlog update. Number 4, get vaccinated edition. So yes, I just got my first of 2 shots of the BioNTech vaccine here in Hong Kong, free from the government. Actually not too late, considering some other countries don't have it at all. So yeah, they actually have 2 vaccines here in Hong Kong. One is the Sinovac one from the China government, and the other one is BioNTech, but actually produced by Fosun Pharmaceutical, which is a Chinese pharmaceutical company. So it's like a licensed version of the German developed vaccine, which is also the same as the Pfizer one. Anyway, so they have a choice here. You can get one or the other. I chose the one that's basically internationally tested, including tested in China actually, so should be good everywhere, right? Well, there's a lot of politics behind that. Some people are opting for the Sinovac one because it makes it easier to get into China, which is something I need to do, but it hasn't been tested outside of China, not recognized outside of China. So anyway, real pain. So long story short, I decided to get this one, and I'll get the second shot 3 weeks from now. So hopefully then I'll be 95% less likely to get it. And hopefully, when travel does open, be able to travel that much faster. So the coronavirus situation here in Hong Kong has actually been pretty stable lately. It's down to like less than 20 cases a day, including people flying in. And now they make you actually stay in a hotel for 21 days, which is pretty crazy. You can't even stay at home. So I'm glad my family came back last time. There have been a few outbreaks here, though. There was some like group of dancing people, and one at a gym, and I think there was one at a restaurant, and one of the people that ate at the restaurant actually lived in my building. So my entire building had to get not locked down, but we had to go in for mandatory testing. So the standard operating procedure nowadays is if there's a case in a building, everyone in that entire building needs to be tested right away. Or in this case, like it was actually, I think we found out on a Wednesday night, and they announced on Thursday that everyone on Friday morning had to get tested right away. And they actually do the test in the building. So like the next morning they had set up a mobile testing facility, opened up at I think 9 a.m. We all went down, got first in line, got tested, and by the next day they give you an SMS. It's actually kind of a pain for the people with a baby. So in our case, the kid, even my son who's 4, was able to get the nasal swab. It wasn't painful at all. It was pretty easy actually. But because we have a baby who's now 18 months, I actually had to take a poop sample over to a different testing facility. So even though we're supposed to stay home, which that's a whole nother story, in this case, I had to go walk it over to the different testing place because they do the poop testing and they do the nasal swab testing, completely different apparatus. So anyway, obviously none of us had any problem and no one else in the building had any problem, so we were able to go. But it was a little bit weird because basically like, there's some people who just took the test and then went straight to work, like they had their like briefcase and stuff with them, and there was no like you're not allowed to leave, like actual lockdown. At least in our case, there have been cases where entire neighborhoods of like some of the poor neighborhoods with like walk-up buildings and stuff, where they would just like cordon off a whole area and test everyone and not let them leave until the tests were done. So they would basically like lock up a whole couple blocks of people and keep them there. So luckily we've avoided that, and I think they decided to stop that because it was kind of a waste. Like they ended up doing it a couple times where they basically like quarantined forcibly like 10,000 people for a day, and they got like 0 tests back positive. So it was kind of clearly a waste of everyone's time. So anyway, yeah, things are going okay. School's going, things are starting to unlock. Actually, I should turn around. This is actually a community testing center that they set up, or whatever, mobile specimen collection point. So they cordon off this field, and it's not very busy right now, but there are some people getting test results. So anyway, that's what's going on right now. Government's been pretty decent, as I said in my last video. All the other kind of politics aside, as far as handling coronavirus, things going pretty well. Things are hopefully getting back to normal. Movie theaters are open. Playgrounds are open, which is actually kind of a good thing. They do have this like government approved mobile check-in app, which is kind of, people are suspicious of it, but that's getting more into the politics. It's pretty harmless. So you have to use it at most restaurants, but it's just scan a QR code and it automatically logs you out after an hour. So pretty harmless. Okay, so that's it for today. See you guys next time. Hopefully, I don't know, I guess I'll have to do another coronavirus update sooner or later once I'm finally allowed to fly. We'll see how long that takes. Bye. Okay, and I am done. I just got my second shot, got my sticker. As you can see, a lot less people this time. So they've opened up, I guess they've lowered the age of eligibility now. I think people under 30 can do it. And as you can see, at least on this Friday, noontime, not that many people. First shot was okay. I didn't have any major side effects, but like my upper arm was pretty sore for like 2 days. It was like someone punched you really hard. So anyway, definitely get this if you have a chance. I got the BioNTech, aka Fosun pharmaceutical license of the Pfizer German one. Yeah, and that seems to be the best one. So anyway, that's it for today. I gotta go to work. See you guys next time. Definitely check out my other videos, my other vlogs from my coronavirus saga, and also my normal IKEA stuff. By the way, this is the COVID-19 mobile testing setup that they have in a park across the street. Time for another vlog update. Coronavirus edition part 4. 什么？
打伏必泰啊！
哦，听不懂，对不起。
胡哥，請問你打金邊喎？呢個入邊啊
Oops. You can't see that I'm a Lao Y. Okay, and we're back. So I'm actually filming this on the 2nd of January, 2022, and I just got my 3rd shot. So hopefully I put this out now. Otherwise, I might have a 4th or 5th shot by the time I put this out. But anyway, so it's almost 2 years exactly. Maybe 3 more weeks. It'll be 2 years exactly since the breakout of COVID here in outside of China. So here in Hong Kong, it came at the end of January 2020. So we're basically 2 years into this. It's the 3rd calendar year. Yeah, it's dragging out. It really sucks. I haven't actually left Hong Kong at all since I flew back from Japan, as you saw in, I think it was part 2. So yeah, I've basically been stuck here, and that's the real kind of update. Is Hong Kong's super safe until this week. There was no Omicron community spread. There's been a couple cases. Hopefully it doesn't get too bad. Fingers crossed. I think it's going to get bad, but anyway, no one has died of COVID in Hong Kong in, I don't know, 4 or 5 months since like September, and it's now January. So that's actually pretty amazing. It's still like 213 people total in the entire 2 years. That's amazing. We've actually kind of beat Taiwan, because Taiwan had an outbreak and it's now 800 something people. So, they were doing amazingly well before. Now they're just doing superbly well, and we're actually slightly higher. So how did they do it? Well, the answer is pretty simple: quarantine up the wazoo. So depending on where you're coming from and what kind of situation is going on, you might have to quarantine as long as 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks, not 14 days anymore. It's 3 weeks, and it's not at home like it was when my family came back last August. Now it's 21 days in a hotel, except mainland China and Taiwan. Taiwan's only 14 for some reason, but mainland China, there's actually a way to get the entire quarantine waived, which is kind of insane considering that they have outbreaks there. But for political reasons, I guess they're like, okay, well, sure, of course we trust everyone. So you still have to take a lot of tests before you can come, once you arrive, all that kind of stuff, similar to my last explanation on my part 3 video. But in fact, now, yeah, you're just basically locked up and tested at the end too. So it's pretty crazy and super annoying, because especially at the hotel, you have to pay for that, right? So let's say it's a 500 Hong Kong dollar room and you're doing 21 days. That's like 10,500 just for the hotel. And in US dollars, that's like maybe $1,200-$1,300. So it includes food, I guess. But yeah, you're paying a lot. So obviously there's a big deal for like, families. Do you get separate rooms? Do you all cram together? What do you do with kids? That's the one thing that I think most people are really fraught over, is the fact that like I could get the cheapest room for myself if I'm just there by myself. If I'm there with the rest of my family, first of all, sticking a kid in a hotel room, even a big one, for 21 days without seeing the sun is kind of inhumane, and it would also drive you crazy. So that's the biggest issue, is you're completely safe while you're here. Everyone's walking around, everyone has to wear a mask, but community transmission, at least up till now, has been pretty much non-existent for the last probably almost a year, since the last really bad outbreaks were, maybe 9 months at least, right? But if you want to go anywhere, which of course you would like to, right, because it's not a big place, you're going to have to do the 3 weeks when you come back, and the money and the whatever, and the risk, right? Because if there's someone on your plane who actually has COVID, they don't just stick you at the hotel, they actually stick you in a quarantine facility. There's a place called Penny Bay, which it's like prefab rooms. It's almost, people say it's like containers, because it sort of is like stacked containers. But I think it's better now, but especially when they first opened, it was sort of like a concentration camp. I mean, like you're basically locked in either way, right? Whether you want to call it a nice concentration camp or a crappy one, you can't leave. So, and supposedly there were some stories like there was no Wi-Fi there. So if you don't have a SIM card that works, you're stuck with whatever you showed up with, right? I don't know, maybe there's a TV in the room, but, and I know a few people who got exposed and then somehow got sent there for at least a while, for monitoring and stuff. I don't think those guys actually got sick, because if they got sick, they would be sent to the hospital. So they were just there. And it turns out now, even because of Omicron, for the US, you have to go that place for 4 days for monitoring, because they monitor you like every day while you're there. And then if you pass, they send you to the hotel. So in fact, I was like, well, actually, because one of my friends was like, well, if you're there by yourself without kids in the room and stuff like that, does it really matter if you're in a fancy place or not? Like in my case, I have a 5G card here on my phone, so I can do a hotspot, so I don't even care if there's Wi-Fi or not, right? So yeah, comparing like being stuck in a container for 21 days for free or paying for a hotel for 21 days, yeah, I think I'd almost take my chances at the place. But we'll have to see. Hopefully it never comes to that. I mean, I've been talking about this with my wife. Like, there's a good case to be made for, even knowing that you're going to have to do quarantine, to just bite the bullet and go back to see my parents overseas. Maybe take the kids back. The kids are hard, but like, let's say if it's just for me to go by myself back to the US, either for work or for visiting family, like once, after 2 years, right? Because who knows, it might be 2 more years till these travel restrictions are gone. So at that point, like, if I knew that I wouldn't be able to travel for 4 years, is it so bad to just bite the bullet and do quarantine once in the middle? Okay, not so bad, right? Because especially, parents are getting older. But the biggest thing would be to bring the kids to see their grandparents, both the Japan and the US side. But that's the one that's pretty unsolvable, I think, right now. yeah, I feel like Hong Kong really is getting to be, with this travel restriction, it's getting to be like a gilded cage. Like, you're super safe here. I'm not that worried about outbreaks. They're pretty on top of stuff. The vaccine's free. I just got my third shot. I can get BioNTech. I don't have to take the Sinovac one. But if you want to leave, you're screwed. Pardon my French. Screwed. It's not as screwed as getting as COVID, but it's just inconvenient. I have one friend who has to travel for work, and he said that in the last 2 years he spent about 25% of the time, if not more, I think it's actually more, actually locked in a hotel room for quarantine, because he would come for like a 3-week trip back to Hong Kong. He's a Hong Kong resident, so he can get back in no matter what, but he had to do 3 weeks in a hotel, then come for a couple weeks meetings, then go back overseas. And so he would basically just try to stay overseas as long as possible, because he can go from the US to Dubai to wherever without having to do any quarantine. And he even got COVID before, so I guess he feels like the quarantine is not really keeping him safe. It's not keeping anyone safe from him. So anyway, yeah, I kind of see his point, but then again, I'm like, well, would you rather be here with 0% chance of dying, or be in New York where, like by the stroke of 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., they've lost more people that day than we've lost in 2 years, right? In freaking Miami, wherever, they're losing hundreds of people a day per state in some cases. When there's a bad outbreak in some cases, yeah, the entire U.S. now, I think, is at 2,000 or 1,000 a day, but it was up to 4,000 before. So they were having a 9/11 every day last winter. It's going to happen again pretty soon. That's kind of a big deal, right? So I don't know, gilded cage versus risk of dying. The biggest issue, I think, is, by definition, I'm in an international marriage. My parents and my wife's parents are in 2 different countries. We work in a third country. That's what makes this the most difficult. So international families, not so compatible with 3-week quarantines. Long story short. Okay, so anyway, that's probably enough for today's rant of the day. Should I talk about side effects of the vaccine or anything? Maybe I'll save that for next time. I'll try to do these more frequently. Like, doing it once every 1.5 years is probably too slow. I'm sure I'll have to get a 4th shot at some point. It's like 6 months between the 2nd shot and the 3rd shot. I'm sure the 4th shot will be within 6 months, which will be whatever, this summer. So maybe I'll see you guys this summer with another vlog. In the meanwhile, check out my other videos. Bye. So that gets me up to the beginning of this year. As you guys know, there was an outbreak in Hong Kong in February and March, which is why I am now in Japan biking next to Lake Biwa. So I'm going to save the whole why we left Hong Kong and how we got to Japan and what we had to do to get here for another vlog. So stay tuned for that. I would like to think that I'll get it done in the next couple weeks. I'm actually going back to the US soon, but it'll probably be a bit longer given my track record. So anyway, that's it for today. This is actually quite fun. I'm going to try to do more biking vlogs. Maybe I won't do it one-handed. It's quite nice, right? So in the meanwhile, see you guys next time here on the Clueless Dad, biking next to the river at sunset, next to the rice field, not crashing. I'm having this roller with me all the time up at the overhead bin. As soon as we get off the plane, pull it out, unfold it, and walk off. Literally, that could save you 15-20 minutes right there.